you're excused, but if you stay a little few minutes for the organ, it's helpful to me because we are wanting to be engaged in having you know as much as possible and have conversations. I'm going to turn it over to Mike in a minute here, but before I do that, I want to address a few questions that came to us since last week. And although I'm disappointed in the way the questions came, you know how people sometimes ask a question and it's kind of in an antagonistic way. They're good questions, and you may have had them as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit of information, and we're going to hear about the organ. So first, one of the questions was, that on our website it still said that we were going to have an information packet out to you in August. Well, that was our intention. But to tell you the truth, we were still waiting on some of the financial information we wanted, second quarter of our investments, how things were doing, how we were budget-wise in August, which is always a determining kind of issue, and things like that. We were waiting. And to tell you the truth, we're not going to rush. Other times in this organ project we have rushed. We weren't going to rush. We said August, but we weren't ready yet. So we weren't going to rush until we were ready to give you this information. And kind of make sure other people involved are on board, like finance and trustees and investments committee. Two, the big issue about the vote. We've had a lot of questions about this. When we came together as a charge conference last September, we said we'd come back this year. And some of the language about coming back in a year was, and then we will vote. Some of it was, and then we'll decide what to do. But I will tell you that, and I forgot to hand these out. I will tell, you can see the ballots are over here, but I will tell you that what we voted on last September was, there were three choices on the ballot. One, proceed immediately. Two, wait for a year for financial planning, delay a year for financial planning, and then proceed. And the third option was discontinue this project. 10 people voted to proceed immediately, even though we knew we were struggling financially. 55 people voted to delay for a year and then proceed. And 20 people voted to discontinue the project immediately. So that was, looking at it this year, once we have had this chance to do the financial planning, we're still working on the details, which you should always be doing this. A church is an organic thing. But we did hear this and proceed. So we decided there's not a need for a vote. And to tell you the truth, there's been 2 votes before this. In June of 2018, the trustee and finance had a joint meeting and voted unanimously to buy this organ. And on July 1st, the congregation also voted to go ahead with this project, although they did ask for financial planning, which is coming. This is why we really did need this time to do this, for better financial planning. And so, to tell you the truth, we already have an organ. We now have 2 organs. We have bought an organ, so we don't need to have a vote to buy this organ or to start this project. We started it. We own an organ. It came from Cincinnati, and actually, somebody else paid for the actual organ. We paid for the uninstallation and the movement to Muller, and for some things that have happened at Muller so far. So we're proceeding, and that's why we're not voting. And related to that, a lot of people had gotten an idea that we'd come to this day and we'd have a decision between a pipe organ and a digital organ. Well, once again, we own a new pipe organ. We own 2 pipe organs at this time. The digital organ, we did work to find out, what it would, because that was raised last year, and it was a good question. Have you considered other options? And we really didn't know. Seriously, we didn't know really until this summer for sure, what finances were going to be, especially once we had the epidemic. We didn't know what that was going to do to our budget, to our investments, and so on. So in our back pocket still was the possibility that we might need to come back and say, we simply can't do this. But another option that we've researched already so that we could get work on it right away was the digital organ. So you need to hear that, and I want to thank, Sarah J. Curry did all the work for the work for researching all about the digital organ, and that's going to be in the resources. So, if you see her, say thank you to her for that. But those are some of the questions people had. I want you to hear those answers, and look for this stuff in the packet when it comes as well. This is ongoing. We need your conversation, your feedback. That's what those little green sheets are for in the pews. So I'm turning it over to Mike to talk to us about our one organ that we have right now.
Good morning. Mike Snyder. I'm new to you, obviously. You've been here a long time. I would like to start by saying that the things I'm going to present to you come from the opinions of two organ builders and my 25 years of experience playing. And I do have a degree specifically in organ performance, which gives me the ability to assess this particular instrument. I want to preface this by saying I am not an organ builder. I am not into the specifics of dimensions and architecture and things like that, but I can tell you what it is that I've seen since I've been here. When I first started auditioning, I came in and played in this glorious building, and I started playing this instrument, and the first thing that came to me was, why in the world are they wanting to replace this instrument? Because it sounds so nice. It really does. Like I said, I've played 25 years in different places. The tone quality of this instrument is quite beautiful. But what happened, when I started playing with this instrument and starting to talk to the other organ builders, I started to realize what the underlying issues are with this. We have two things that we can see. And this morning, my wife told me to turn on the lights because most people don't get to see where the organ is. So some of you, while you're listening to the sermon or whatever, they're looking at the pipework here. The first thing you can tell is that there are times where you can see the pipework and times that you cannot see the pipework. There are like Venetian blinds that open and close. Those are called expression shades. Right now I've got them open so you can see into the organ chamber. The organ chamber is located up here on the left-hand side. Then farther up towards the stained glass window on the left-hand side. And then to my left, to your right, there is another chamber up on this side. This section right here is just sort of, it's a facade, it's fake. It is not another room behind there, that's the kitchenette that's on the third floor there. So it's just designed to look symmetrical here. But one thing I've always thought about Methodist churches is we hide our pipe organs. Most of them do. You don't expose the pipe work. That puts us at a deficiency because we don't see the problems. We just get to hear sounds, but we don't really understand where it comes from unless you physically get to see that. So that's why I've turned those lights on. Anyways, let me get into some of the specifics about this particular instrument. First of all, it's a combination of several different builders' ideas and their comprehension of organ building. So it's not one cohesive idea. Unfortunately, with that, how things are engineered are not engineered to be able to be compatible with each other. Or when work was done in prior years, it was done with materials that were recycled from other instruments that weren't supposed to be put together. The result of that is we're dealing with 100-year-old wind chests. Okay, a wind chest is, if you look at this box, the box is hiding most of the mechanicals. Okay, so you actually have to go up there and see that. The pipe work in this organ is fine. The problem is the motor. All the things that drive the blowing of those pipes is what's causing the problem. That is the expense of an organ. Right? So that's why we're looking to replace this with the Cincinnati organ, as those foundational components are in excellent condition or can be made to be put in excellent condition before they're put into our church. So as a result, we have wind chests that the bottom board are warped, and there's no amount of re-leathering that's going to stop that. And this changes with the weather as well. Right now, the organ is functioning probably the best that it does within the calendar year because of the humidity. When we get into the winter years, when the wood starts to shrink, then all of a sudden we get these air leaks and things like that. I'm going to be quiet here for a second because I want to talk about air leaks. That is not your air conditioning system. The ambient noise that you hear right now is the air leak of that organ. If I was to turn it off, it is dead quiet. But what happens is it just raises the entire noise level of the church, where we've gotten used to, I'm sure as a church, you've gotten used to this. It is so pronounced that I actually want to take about 5 seconds to walk up here. I'm going to shut these shades here, and you can tell the difference. Now you can actually hear the air conditioning system. But most of that sound in this room are leaking air chests, they're leaking joints between pipes to the reservoirs and things like that. So I want to go through some things. This is not an exhaustive list of things, but like I said, the Winchester worked. And what's happening is there's an improper wind pressure because of the way it was designed was not designed to have enough reservoir space to blow all the pipes. So what happens is if I start to play large chords, the organ pitch on the organ will actually start to sag. As a result, the reservoirs will continue to bounce around, which gives it sort of a vibrato effect to the pitch, which is not supposed to happen. There are tremulons on the organ that are supposed to make that happen, but it's not supposed to happen based upon the wind pressure. Okay? The reservoirs are underscaled for the size of the organ. The levers are failing, resulting in multiple dead notes per rank of pipes. You don't hear this as a congregation because my job and Dr. Tovey's job is to make this sound as nice as it can. And so what we do is we work around all of these issues. Most of the time you don't hear one stop at a time. You hear things in major combinations. So if there's a dead note, there's something else in its place to play that particular pitch. Okay? But if I was to go through every stop, some of them have maybe 12 dead notes within the entire range of pipes. Those aren't things that can be fixed with general maintenance. It's the pouches and levers and the wind chests aren't big enough to be able to blow the pipes properly, and that's why we're dealing with those issues. There's poor electrical work resulting in shorts. When I was here for about 2 weeks, I had to call Muller because there were entire sections of the brand new part of the organ, or not brand new, but the newest portion, that only about 2 or 3 stops of what you see in the front actually work. So what you're listening to is probably about 60% of this organ's capacity right now. Okay, so we're not playing with the full instrument, we're playing with what's left over. The biggest thing for me as a musician is that this organ cannot be brought up to actual pitch. If you go over to A, it's not A 440 like we can with the piano, which means we cannot play these instruments together, or if a French horn player were to come in and play, they'd have to pull their tuning slide out almost a half a step, right? I think we've gotten used to that. I only knew that because I played a recording of something I played at my old church in Lancaster and played it directly next to me. I don't have perfect pitch, so I got used to relative pitch. But I played it next to each other and I thought, this doesn't even sound like the same piece. It's a half a step low because of the ability to blow the winding in the organ. The next thing is the physical layout of the organ, which is what Muller wants to do. I do have pictures down here. The last time we were here, people were asking what it looked like and how this would be organized. I do have a couple pictures. I'm not a Photoshop person, but I did kind of lift their design and put it in an actual picture of our sanctuary, so you can see what that looks like physically. But right now, on this left-hand side, if you go outside, there's a stained glass window. Well, that stained glass window is not insulated, so anytime that the weather changes, it gets really cold in there. This is all metal and wood, and it reacts to its ambient temperature. So what happens is one portion of the organ will be cold, while the other one is on the inside wall, which will be warm, and the pitches are compatible with each other. So it's not possible to tune the instrument with itself as well. So that's part of the design that they want to do, is to actually cantilever part of the organ on either side of the sanctuary here, so that most of the organ is on the inside of the sanctuary to deal with the ambient temperatures. The chambers are not insulated as well, so I think that is part of the process of them. Right now we do have, on this side in particular, I've got it closed now, but there is plaster that's falling off the ceiling into the pipes, and so some of the pipes will cipher. A cipher is when the note just continues to go and drone on, okay? I do want to say that the benefit of this being a pipe organ versus the digital at this point, if this was a digital instrument, when things happen, it tends to take the entire instrument down, no different than your personal computer. When there's a glitch, the entire system quits. With a mechanical instrument like this, if there's a glitch in one part of the organ, we can work around that to try to be able to to make things happen for you on Sunday morning, and that's what we're doing. So that is the one benefit of this already being a pipe organ, is we're able to work with what's left. I do want to open this up for a question and answer instead of me talking to you the entire time. And I know that you want to get to the breakfast and lunch and
Well,
things like
let's
that.
do it this way, that if somebody wants to come up and request a mask, if somebody has a question they want to directly ask Mike, you can linger and do that, or put questions on these green sheets.
Okay, okay. Sure. And please do look at the pictures that are here. I'm not sure that many of you have actually seen what the design is, and it's really quite beautiful. That's true. You know what? My wife can actually take you upstairs too. If you actually want to see the inside of the pipe organ, you can go up to the kitchenette upstairs. I have the door open there, and she can explain some things to you too, because she's been around me my entire career. Yes.